The other thing in creating models for just societies, and this one is real key, we know, particularly among the younger generation, real problems in male-female relationships. And we know now the marriage rate is real low among Blacks. 29% of Blacks are married. And for 100 years, 75% of our families, two-parent households. Extended family communities really help those families remain strong. But as I pointed out, and before you read this book, The Integration Trap, you see it in greater detail. The forces that have hit Black communities since 1968 have really fragmented Black families and put us in the position, as God told me, of choosing between two cultures. So now singlehood seems more normal for a lot of people than marriage, even though a lot would like to be married. And some people are getting comfortable in being single. But the key point is that while there are forces that have caused the erosion of two-parent households, if we're going to rebuild families and really strengthen male-female relationships, there's a lot of things we have to do. And one of them is we need to understand the models, the best models for familyhood and for relationships between males and females that have come out of our past. Because again, of both cellular memory and because of our culture, you're going to find that because family is so profound and so important in people's lives, it's a fundamental institution that transmits love, that is the first teacher of the child, you know, and that teaches through practice, because the mother wants the child to be the embodiment of good character, most mothers. So because the family is the foundation of society, the models for family are deep inside of us. Of all the things I've done in terms of scholarship or organizing or anything else, the most difficult thing that I've done is write a book called Return to the African Mother Principle of Male and Female Equality. It took 15 disciplines to write this book. It came from the beautiful light of God, which gave me the understanding of what the model was for just societies, that is, for family systems. And once I, received this vision, and this came after a lot of internal turmoil that I'd gone through in my own life, because I believe the main reason that I'm here is because in past lives, I hadn't learned so well the male-female thing. I had learned the male, but not the female. I had learned the masculine, but not the feminine. And I went through a trial period from 1984 to 1990, where I had to address that. It was the roughest period in my life. I may have mentioned it before. I went on 3-month retreats for 5 years to look at myself. But I had this model that you see in the back, these two Dogon figures that are symbolic of the centrality of the masculine feminine principle in the cosmos of male and female. And those two beings, you'll see the male has his arm around the female. His chest are extended like their breast. That's symbolic of the feminine and the masculine. And then you see the female. The female has a beard of a deceased pharaoh. That's symbolic of the masculine within the feminine. And so this is work that I had to do on myself. And I'm an astrologer, so I knew something about my own characteristics. Astrology is the best system for character analysis. Y'all brainwashed. Again, despiritualization. They took astrology out of astronomy. So all you know is the bodies, their motion. And now with mathematical physics, how to get to some of those bodies. And that's fine. I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking mathematical physics. It's a heavy discipline. But ain't nothing God created that is material, that isn't also spirit. And if we contain God within it, and we have spirit powers, what do you think those planets have up there? You hear me? When spirits leave heaven, they leave heaven according to the angular relationship of planets, because there's no time in heaven. And those angular relationships are energy fields. And those energy fields provide optimal times for certain spirits who have certain issues to be addressed. And by the way, astrology was invented in Kemet, according to Herodotus, you know. But we're afraid of that. And the white boy's done a good job of despiritualizing us. And I tell you, almost all the spirit conscious Black folks I know, they get silent when I talk about astrology. They don't say nothing because they've been spookified by it. But the Catholic Church has the largest astrological library anywhere. But they're the ones that are the primary architects of telling you that's the devil's stuff. You know what I mean? So family models, just family models, are the basis for balanced societies. They are the basis for women being treated kindly and with respect. In African culture and African American culture, you measure the level of a people by the level of the women. And if the women are strong, well-educated, free, and powerful, race is going to be in good shape. And if they are not, the race is going to be in trouble. White people, that rule isn't true. They ran the world for the British for 300 years, the Americans for 27. While they did their own women in, you know what I mean? Disrespected them, disempowered them, and everything else, put them in the dainty category, you know, under what's called patriarchy. They could get away with it. That's their culture. It's not a ethically based culture. It's teleological. It's use-based, meaning if it's useful, it's good. So that could work. Doing women in can work in their culture. How much longer it can work is another question, but it can't work for us because one is not going to progress unless the other one does. And as I've often said, in Africa, Africa is going to progress. The most important thing you can do is empower women. Empower men too, but women. Because if you give women the opportunity to have a business and make money, it's going to their children. You have the man, no telling where it's going. Might go to his family, but no telling where it's going. So what we have, fortunately, because after receiving the light, I discovered the paradigm or model for African families. This book is considered a classic. And we'll talk about it. But you find it in the successful Black families today. The Black families that really work well, they won't call it what I call it, but they have that relationship. And no relationships are perfect. And under oppression, things get messy. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not romanticizing any of this. But the fact is, that model is deeply embedded in our culture. So to create models for just societies, we must do what no revolutionary movements have done. They have all ignored the family. You know, the one in Russia, the one in China, they take the one in Cuba, they take the family system for granted. And so in these societies, women continue to catch hell, you know? So if we're going to create models for just societies, then a key thing that we have to do is we have to draw up those models and look at our family systems and see where are we in line with this and how can we get better in line. And I'm telling you, The Black families that work, they don't know that this comes from Africa. It's in them. They're practicing that. And they got problems, maybe not that much. There's a lot of rules to relationships. And by the way, in this show, we'll be getting into some of that. You know what I mean? The dynamics of relationships, what creates really the basis for good relationships and good marriages.